Erin Kyna, welcome back to the Inner Experience podcast.
Thanks, Sammy. You're so serious.
Oh dear.
Gosh.
Yeah. You've been on the podcast before. For those who want to go back in time, I don't remember the number of the episode, but it was a good one. And actually one of my most top performing ones.
Oh man,
by the way.
I hear this a lot. That is such comforting feedback, because back then I was talking about launching a podcast. Still haven't done it. Very typical Erin style, but almost all podcasts that I get an opportunity to guest on, they come back and tell me, wow, that one performed really, really well, which is comforting because it tells me. And actually you told me when you were editing it, you were like, fuck, this is so good. You couldn't get enough of re-listening to it. And then on other interviews that you've done, the magic, the spark, the energy isn't behind it. And so that's really what that tells me, is that people are experiencing the energetic exchange that you and I share, the love that we share between us.
Yeah.
They get to feel it. And that is magic.
Absolutely. And I think, we've been going back and forth, just in our friendship at the moment to talk about a lot of different things that I was like, fuck, I really want to bring this stuff to the podcast, and also like allow you to talk about what you've got happening, because I just really believe that you have such a beautiful ability to help, especially women, on the journey of reclaiming their power and who they are through what we're going to talk about today.
Yes. I just like flashback to our WhatsApp group thread that we started like a year ago called Worship and Submission. Oh, hasn't that been deepening and deepening and deepening? And the other thing that's been so present for me, I even got a text message about it this morning. It's like, I can't go and awaken all the women and not awaken the men.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how I'm going to do that yet, or what is going to be provided, excuse me, for that to happen. But it's only half of the equation for the women to activate in this way. We also need to empower the men how to hold us in that state.
Yeah.
So
that's funny, because I've been thinking about this recently.
Of course.
And I actually think through women doing this work, it actually is activating the men. It actually is like, and we always talk about we can't have one without the, like, there's no separation here. There's like, it's union. And I think the power and the force and the intensity that women like bring as they go through this stuff only allows the men who are ready to absolutely show up. And I've been seeing evidence of this everywhere. It's so fucking cool.
It's either going to trigger the fuck out of them and make them run away, or it's going to get them to step up, which is really cool. But what I would love to do, in the same way that I'm doing it with women, is expediting the process. We're all designed to awaken naturally and evolve naturally, and it's going to happen at some point in our life. But when you have a guide and a teacher that's already walked that path, that can help you navigate it, it's going to be quicker and smoother and more refined quicker. So I guess that's what I'm saying is, for the men, is like, yes, they're going to have natural awakenings from being intimate with women like you and I. Like, they can't not. They're either going to be too intimidated to even approach us in the first place, or if they've got the courage to go, oh, I want a woman that powerful, then they've got power, But how freaking cool to also give them directions and teachings and empower them into the confidence that it takes to step up for a woman like you and I.
Yeah, because we need them.
Yeah.
The
planet needs them.
Yeah.
The planet needs us. I think the divine feminine, the pendulum is swinging the other way. Yep. So the women are awakening first at the moment. The women are often the ones leading in relationships at the moment, but that's what we need to see globally. So that's the macro and micro thing. So I know a lot of women who are listening to podcasts like this, doing work like you and I do, working with us as clients, and they're kind of trying to drag their boyfriend along, and they get a bit frustrated, and they, they're like, he's not there yet, or he can't hold me yet, or I've got to be the one teaching, or like, I'm always the one leading the way and I want him to lead. It's like, well, actually, if we just accept that and shift our expectation around it, because that's what the planet needs. The planet needs the feminine to lead right now, to balance the pendulum, and it will ultimately come back and calibrate itself beautifully into equality. But we're seeing a lot of the detriment of an unbalanced masculine and the patriarchy globally, and we're seeing the collapse of those things right now. And we are seeing this new wave of feminine energy coming through. So
yeah,
it is awesome to have a man that's more awakened than you. Absolutely. But it's also a fucking honor to be the awakener of a man.
yeah, I love that.
Like,
And I
rather than
also,
holding resentment, like
yeah,
embrace it with gratitude that we get that privilege of awakening others with
absolutely.
our energy.
But I also think that there is a lot of healing that needs to take place as in the feminine in men right now. You know, like
so true.
that is, which I think is tricky. I think it's tricky for them to understand how to hold their masculinity or hold their masculine essence, especially for the feminine and the women that are going through a fuckload.
Sam, I'm getting turned on. Fuck. Like, even as you're going here and talking about awakened male and like that, or masculine, I should say, I definitely don't want to be gender specific to that, but as that masculine awakens with the healthy feminine inside of it, my whole body's just like, girls, can you see me over here? Fuck, my body's just pulsating like, fuck, yes, men like that, with, because it's important for me. And I would say for you as well, as women that have a strong masculine essence as well, with access to a large amount of feminine energy, a large amount of masculine energy within our being, that we need a counterpart for that.
Yeah.
So we in particular are looking for men that have this big, strong masculine presence and this deep, loving heart that can meet us in the femininity, that can be soft, that can be vulnerable. Like, I was talking last night with my lover about what a fucking turn on it is to see someone in their vulnerability. Like, I was in this super tender place, you know, I'd really pushed up against some boundaries inside of me, and I just kind of curled into a ball and just sat in that tender place, and it brought this primal animal out in him. And just like, you should have seen this, like the explosion of sexual energy. And it was like kind of intimidating in that moment to be so tender, and then to have this like primal animal want me. But it was a huge turn on. And then I look back and I was like, oh fuck, I've been like that in relationships too. When someone cracks open, like if someone's crying or if someone's in that raw and like that intense vulnerability that it takes for someone to get to that place, turns us on massively. So for a man to show that is a very feminine moment to get to, you know, we were also talking about men that enjoy anal penetration, especially men that identify as an alpha or a dominant, that they enjoy that sensation, but it's not a sign of weakness, and that only certain women are able to hold space for that in a way where you can still honor a man. And for me, the courage that it takes and the vulnerability it takes to claim that they want something like that and to ask, it's a huge turn on. I'm like, oh my God, yes, please let me do that. Whereas I can imagine some women are like, I don't want to see my man like that. Their idea of what masculinity is probably also needs to evolve.
Yep.
You know, as this evolution is happening on the planet with the masculine and the feminine rising in a more divine way, we do have to reframe what it means, what masculine looks like. But yeah, I know for you and I in particular, we are looking for that courage to be feminine, or to move into those more receptive states, and not at the expense of their masculine. But who knows, maybe some guys love it and that's fucking awesome too. And that would also be super hot for me, because a guy that's happy to drop fully into his feminine, I'm like, oh, yes, please.
Yeah, and I think, you know, I think agility is a big thing. I think it's about, you know, it's not one or the other. You know, I think I've been playing with this whole concept in so many areas of my life for so long, where right at this moment in time, I'm like the most grounded in the aspect of having all, like, you know, having the rest and having the go, and having the feminine, having the masculine, and being all, and then having somebody meet me in that all. Because I want to I think I spoke in the podcast next week with Donna. We speak about like all the flavors. Like, I don't want just like the one thing. I want all of the things, you know? And that's what I think is so rich when it comes to having no expectation of what somebody needs to be, but letting them bring their fullness. Okay, park that conversation. Letting them bring their fullness, and you being able to meet them in polarity or meet them in whatever, to bring that, and then hold the space for that, and then knowing that it will change and it will always be in a dynamic relationship. And that's what I fucking love, and I'm learning it with just myself right now.
Yes, I love that. And you know, before I often do this, I'm just having what feels like a casual thought, because I'm a chronic overthinker as well. Like, I love to think actually and love to process. I was like, oh yeah, da, 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 da. And then I realized, oh no, actually I was downloading something really relevant for what we're going to talk about today. But I was thinking about your relationship with archetypes and your relationship with theatre, and how your exploration into archetypes and your exploration into different parts of yourself has actually been almost one of acting.
Yeah.
It created a safe space for you to say, oh, if I step into this persona as an act, then I'm safe to explore, and it keeps me somewhat protected as well. And actually what you're just saying now is something that I'm seeing in you is like, oh, fuck, what if it's not separate from me? What if it's not an act that I play? What if it's not an outfit that I put on? What if it is me?
Yeah.
And I asked you to do it. I asked you to look in the mirror and look in your eyes and claim it, you know, that I am this.
Yeah.
And it's just a completely different thing from acting. So that's just awesome that you're going through that integration.
Yes. And
I just want to honor the process. Like often we need to do it in a safe way.
Yeah.
Like, sorry, I'm going to let you speak in a second. But you know me, Sammy, can't stop talking. Even my lover said to me last night, he's like, look at how much you've grown through this process. It's like, who's responsible? And I was like, oh, this is a trick question because I know I meant to say me, but really I'm just like grateful that you showed up. And he's like, who was the one who had the courage to create a FetLife profile? Who was the one who had the courage to go to a rope jam for the first time? Who was the one who had the courage to let someone come to her house and tie her up? Who was the one who had the courage? And I was just like crying and crying and crying. And he's like, don't turn your face away from me. I was like, oh my God, I even have to face you in my crying.
Yeah.
You know, like, oh, what an honoring. And how I needed to hear that. I needed that reflected back to me because I forget the courage that it takes to do what you and I do. It's almost so innate in us that we're courageous people and we push the limits. But for a second, if we can stop and acknowledge that, like, fuck, every time I push the limits, it's such a courageous thing. The first time you step into an archetype, the first time you step on stage acting, the first time you sing out loud, you know, like the first time we get naked and stare at ourselves in the eyes, in the mirror, the first time we make that claim about who we are, like, that's some scary fucking shit. And we do need to commend ourselves for what it takes to be on this journey, no matter what the path looks like for any of us. I'm not judging anyone that's listening to this for not doing what you and I have done or doing it in a different way or whatever. It doesn't fucking matter. The fact is, like, we're just doing the work.
Absolutely. And I want to go into this more in a second because I also want to acknowledge the fact that it's so necessary to have support systems when you're in this. Like my coach the other day literally gave me 2 minutes of praise on our coaching call. He's like, let me just, and it's a masculine, you know, let me just give you praise. I'm like, okay, cool, no worries. So he's like giving me praise and I'm just like breathing it in. And then all of a sudden I just start crying. Like it's just somebody that can see you and is just praising you for all of this stuff that you just mentioned that we do. It's like, it just rewires the nervous system.
Yes.
And
it does. It literally is doing that.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. There's actually a praise kink exactly for that you just sit in that energy of praise, and it is edgy for people. It's so confronting to receive that. And even last night, my lover said, yeah, you're a woman on this world. Like from the moment that you're born, you've been relegated underneath men in ways that you don't even realize, just daily, every single day. Because I was saying, if we're in a dominant and submissive dynamic, how do I see myself as equal to you when I also recognize that we're in this part? Like I'm willing to put myself underneath your energy or below your energy, some energetic way, if that makes sense. It's hard to explain because I don't see myself as less than, but I was struggling with the understanding of the equality in it all. Like, he calls me out every time I belittle myself in some subtle way, or every time, like last night where I was like, I want to praise you for this journey that I'm having in my life. I want to thank you for showing up and leading me on this. And he was like, this is you. And I was like, oh, whoa. So he's calling me out on that all the time, but like we are equals, and outside of the sexual container, like even in the sexual container, all the time, all he wants to do is empower me. All he wants to do is see me in my power, and he thinks it's sexy as fuck when he sees me. It's an incredible feeling to have someone like that. And it's only in that equality that I'm willing to hand over my power in a power exchange and feel safety and feel trust and feel love in order for the kinky doors to open and us to explore sexual energy in a multitude of different ways. But yeah, I think my villa is being painted at the moment, and all the trades people are women. So they come around, it's all women painting the house. And we wouldn't really see that as often in Australia. Like in Australia, the vast majority of tradespeople are men. And so I was looking at that thinking, oh, that's a trigger for me in some way.
Wow.
And then I was like, well, what do I really think? Do I think that tradespeople should be men? Do I think that tradespeople should be women? Or do I think it could be either and it doesn't really matter? And then so I was talking it through with him and he was saying, you know, you've got a judgment based on your conditioning and your culture and your country. He's like, you're in a different culture. You can't judge them. You can't say what you think is right or wrong for them. He's like, I was like, oh, I've always struggled with feeling like I've got privilege, you know, like feeling like I've got money in this world where these people are painting my house for hardly any money. And he's like, yeah, they probably look at you and say, look at that poor, boring, childless lady who lives alone without any family and children. And I was like, fuck, that's so true. And in that moment, it equilibrated the judgment for me. I was like, of course, my sense of freedom that I love and that I've worked towards, my independence and the lifestyle that I love is held to someone else in a different culture who all they've been raised to ever believe is important for them as women is to have a family and to raise children and be surrounded by community. I was like, oh, thanks for balancing that out, because I've been fighting with that for my whole life. And in one good comment,
Wow.
like, who are we to judge what's right or wrong for anyone ever?
Yeah.
The Balinese women pride themselves on their strength. You'll see them in the rice fields, you'll see them building houses, you see them painting. And when other women come over with a bit more privilege, they look down on that and they're like, we're so much stronger than that.
Wow.
They take pride in that. Whereas here I am sitting there thinking, well, anatomically men are stronger biologically, so men should be doing the strong work. I'm like, oh, I'm just speaking about my personal preference that I don't like physical labor and I would rather do something more feminine in inverted quotes, you know, like.
Yeah. And our culture plays our cultural conditioning plays such a huge part in our subconscious decisions and actions and choices that we make in life that I think we're in a battle of unraveling right now. And that's why we're so confused as to why things are activating us or we're bumping up against certain things, because we don't even realize it's a conditioning that we're needing to actually unravel, you know, because It's like, where the fuck did that come from?
Exactly. We didn't choose these thoughts.
Yeah.
So you and I are both Australian. We're raised watching, like, again, I forget that there's a decade age gap between us. Sammy, I don't know if you grew up with a Happy Little Vegemite song.
I know.
Did you have that? Yeah, everyone knows a Happy Little Vegemite song.
Yeah.
And they're all blonde-haired, blue-eyed, white-skinned children claiming that they're Australian, blah, 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 blah. My ex-partner we both had European immigrant grandparents. So we both had the same amount of heritage in Australia, actually, but it was our grandparents' generation that immigrated from Europe. But my grandparents are Scottish, so I was very pale back then. I've got more tan living in Bali. But my partner's heritage was Greek and Hungarian, so much more olive and tan. And I remember going to the Cook Islands and seeing her go very olive very quickly. And I had the thought, oh God, imagine if you'd tan that quickly. And as I mentally put myself in that thought experiment and made myself olive, the first instinctive response before I even had conscious awareness was, I'm not Australian. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so freaking racist. On a conscious level, I see we're all equals. On a subconscious programming level, without ever choosing that thought, I've been programmed by watching those ads on TV, by seeing all the billboard advertisements growing up, from just seeing a white Australia. And in fact, we had a white Australia immigration policy till the 70s. So Australia is very inherently racist, subconsciously racist. Even the evolved ones who are consciously choosing not to, we've still been subject to that conditioning. So that conditioning happens drastically to us women with our bodies. You know, what are these messages that have been deposited in our brain before we got a choice about what it means to have bodies and what shape our bodies are and what we do with our bodies, with our sexuality massively, and everywhere else, but let's just focus on those two because I'm extremely passionate about that. What are the messages that are in our brain that we've never even seen, that we never chose, that tell us what our sexuality should be, or how good or right or moral or lovable or desirable we are based on what our sexuality expression is.
Yes. And so much of this work that we're talking about here about reclaiming our power and whatever is actually connected to how you help people and women with their sexuality. And I would have to say that sexuality work and intimacy work has been the most hard hitting for me in terms of reclaiming my power, and also the most challenging. So
why? May I ask why?
I think because of what we were saying, the subconscious conditioning that's there, the shame that's there that I didn't know was there before, you know, the way in which we numb ourselves and block ourselves off to fit into this box. I'm going to talk about I now because I can only talk about me. The way that I put myself into this box of the good girl, the nice girl, be in this pretty little box and don't say too much. And, you know, we've been talking about more advanced stuff that I'm diving into right now. And I'm running up again, new layers of the story of I'm too much, like my fullness is too much.
Yes.
And so it's all of these things that I've picked up along the way through what I've witnessed, what I've been taught through media, through all of these things that I've taken in, and also what I believe to be ancestral stuff as well that I'm holding. Absolutely. And as I continually work through all of these things, chunk of my power gets reclaimed. And that is I've never done any work that has reclaimed a lot of who I am, like what sexuality and intimacy has offered me.
Yeah. And the reason why I asked about your personal experience is because you are actually speaking for the collective. I think all women, should they find the courage and should the time come that they're going to start to do this work, will have almost exactly identical experience to you and I. Fuck, I'm scared. I'm fucking scared. This is so fucking powerful. And what then? Is my life going to be destroyed? Is my relationship going to be destroyed? Are people still going to love me? Am I still going to be able to find a partner? This is the power of feminine sexuality, which is why I think historically has been shut down for so long, for centuries, because the power in it is so immense that the powers that be were like, we need to shut that down. And what's the easiest way to control people? Shame, fear, and guilt. So let's shame them. Let's make them feel like it's dirty and it's wrong. Let's make it immoral. Let's condition people into this state of domesticity, of forgetting the fact that we are wild, powerful, sexual creatures. We are animals on the inside at our core. And yes, our job is to be greater than an animal instinct. But actually, when you bring together that primal, raw, powerful sexual energy with our state of evolution, fucking watch out, universe. We will be creating new universes inside of our bodies. It's crazy. And I don't want to judge anyone's path. My path personally has never been Tantra. I've had resistance to it forever, even though conceptually I think that I should love that and I should move towards that. And it makes sense. There's always been great resistance for me. And in fact, once I had this really powerful sexual healing and felt this full Kundalini connection, and I had this resentment inside. I was like, oh, does that mean I have to study Tantra now? Asking the universe, damn, is that my path? And the message I got was, understanding sex through Tantra is like trying to understand God through church. And I was like, oh God, that makes so much sense to me. Yes, of course, it's one avenue, but it's not the wholeness of it. To understand anything conceptually and through other people's teaching, yes, we get the flavor of it, but the fullness of it is actually our inner personal experience. It's not through a doctrine. It's not through some sort of container that we have to stay within. So Tantra's just never been my path, but I don't want to deny how powerful it can be for anyone that it is their path. But I've been thinking about it a lot more recently. Why do I still have all this resistance? Why am I still not interested in going and exploring this? And what I feel is that Tantra can be an opportunity to bypass shame. If we make sexuality sacred, and if we only express our sexuality in this lane or this avenue, then we get to access it without stepping into that big field of shame that's been deposited inside of us. And what I'm doing for women is saying, no, we're not going to stick to just one lane of expression. Let's go into that shame. Let's go right into that part of you that you don't want to be, that you're most embarrassed about, that you feel most the need to hide, and let's go reclaim that. And then when you walk straight into the center of your shame and you admit to yourself the things that you don't want to admit to yourself, when you are willing to explore the things that you don't want to on a conscious, that you love and hate both equally at once, that you're curious about, but you're fucking terrified of, or what you think it means about you as a woman if you want to experience that thing. When you walk into that field and reclaim that, then all the lanes open up. And then, yes, you can still experience it as a tantric expression of sexuality that might be peaceful and calm and loving and eye gazing and sitting there. And like, to me, there's a lot of control in that. Like, we're controlling this experience, we're following this rule book. And yes, we might get an activation, and we might get energy exchange, and we might have like blissful orgasmic experiences. But there's also this other way that is just like pure chaos. That's just that animal inside of us, that primal rawness that I believe actually is inside all of us and is how we're meant to express. It's almost like I'm accepting my body and loving my body and using my body in a way I never ever have before. That when I'm in my spiritual practices, all I want to do is love. All I want to do is be gentle. All I want to do is honor myself and worship myself and love my body in a way that I can forget about the abuse it's gone through, or the pain that's been inflicted upon it, or the violations that have been inflicted upon it. And so I was just like only wanting to love and honor myself. And now it's actually like, well, could you also want to experience pain with your sexuality? Could you want to experience this sensation of being grabbed or choked or having your hair pulled violently or aggressively? Like, does your body want that? Oh, up until then, my only association with that was abusive. So I was fucking terrified of it. But actually now I'm experiencing these states where the eroticism takes over you and the mind is free of that. Yeah, you felt it, girl. You got the shudder. The mind doesn't think like that anymore. The shame isn't there and controlling us and like associating those things and telling us these stories and blah, 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 blah. When that eroticism, which you and I have been referring to as the whore archetype, when she emerges from me and my mind is clear, all I want to do is experience my body. Like, holy shit, I want to feel everything I can possibly feel. And like, I had something recently called pain orgasms, which I didn't even know existed. But there's this pain inside of me, like, oh, fuck, I don't know if I can get pounded any more than that. Like, at that point, I'd always stop when I experienced pain. And now I'm being pushed into that. And even through pushing through the pain came orgasms. And I was like, oh my God, that is a sensation that my body has the capacity to feel. And I'd never felt it. Like, how many women, we were talking about this last night, my lover and I, like, I can spot women who have their sexuality awakened and alive and are getting fucked really well. And when I look at the women that aren't, it's almost like I see them as gray now. Like, their energy field, the lens at which I'm looking at them through. A woman who isn't well fucked and a woman who's not activating and using her sexual energy for herself, first and foremost, like always just for us. And of course that comes with natural expression of sharing with others. But when she's not using that, it's like there's part of her that's dying on the inside.
Yeah.
It's like she's
it's a life force, right?
Yes.
Our sexual energy as a woman is our life force.
Yes. And I see some really successful women out there making shitloads of money and looking like they've got everything. And you're like, that is not a well-fucked woman.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why her business is like that. Who fucking knows? But there is something different, something technicolor and something vivid and something dimensional about a well-fucked woman whose sexual energy is fucking activating her cells, her body, her energy, her heart, her mind.
Yeah.
My heart's racing.
So
I'm steaming again.
Okay, so I found, like, I've been obsessed with archetype work for this reason of it's challenging me to choose something like the whore archetype that is edgy as fuck and like makes me sweaty, because it brings up all these new things, right? So I find archetype work has been a really powerful journey for somebody to tap into outside of this loving spiritual gentleness part. It's like makes you, oh God, like I don't want to go into this shame. I don't want to go into this feeling. I don't even know. I can't remember if I was talking to you about this or my coach around the whore archetype at first. It probably was you, because then you gave me the feedback of, we'll go into this. But essentially I was like, I don't know how to do it. Like, I don't know how to take that shape in my body. And it was then utilizing my voice and reclaiming that part of me, instead of thinking it's a separate part that I need to like step into the costume of and like here I am. It was like, no, it needed to come from my yoni outwards, like, and my throat outwards, to be like, no, I am a fucking whore. And like utilizing my voice allowed me to like take the pose and like hold it and be there through the weeping and the pain and the anger and the grief and everything that it brought up in terms of the emotion of that release that I had by taking that pose.
Yes.
But I want to go more into that, like why like archetype work and what you have found and how you work with that for people who are starting this, I don't know, wherever they're on the journey of reclaiming it, and why it's so powerful.
Well, I think archetypes, for anyone that isn't familiar with archetypes, it's like these characters that exist in the collective consciousness. So we all know the clown archetype. There was someone in our class at school who carried the clown persona. It was part of their identity and their makeup. It's part of how they express themselves in the world. And there's some common archetypes that are present in all of us. And Caroline Myss in Sacred Contracts, it's a fantastic book about archetypes. She talks about the victim, the child, the saboteur, and the prostitute being the 4 universal ones that are inside all of us. And then we have these other 8 that would express differently. So I have the queen, the teacher, the seeker, the healer. When Caroline Myss speaks about the prostitute archetype, it's very different from what I'm talking about when I talk about the whore, even though we generally associate those things together. When she talks about the prostitute, it's the part of yourself that sacrifices your values for something else. So it might be that you're hanging around with a bunch of people who you don't really like, but you think they're popular, or you think they've got money, or you think that maybe because you're hanging out with them, they're going to help you accelerate in the world. So you're sacrificing your values of what you really want for something else. So that's when we're in the prostitute. So I've been thinking about that in my mind, and the prostitute is someone, there's an exchange there. Like I give up this, but I get this. When I think about the whore archetype, I think about that insatiable, ravenous, greedy, pleasure-driven woman inside of us that nothing will get in our way of us having what we want. So it's not about an exchange. We don't have to sacrifice ourselves. We don't have to give up ourselves. And, you know, I've also been reframing it as the sacred whore, because I think that's going to make it a little bit more palatable for people at the beginning. And I understand that I have to do that, but inside of me, I don't even want to do it. I do it because I have to, because I recognize that that's best for the people. But on the inside, I don't call myself a sacred whore. I'm just a fucking whore. Like, in all her filthiness, in all her dirtiness, in all her kinkiness, I'm just a whore, and it's part of who I am. So I actually think that this, well, what I'm coming to experience now is that is a universal part of all women, that there is a raw primal sexuality in every single woman. There's the goddess inside every single woman, but not everyone's going to access it. Not everyone's going to want to access it, and not everyone's going to have the courage to go on that journey. So to get back to your actual question of like, why are archetypes an avenue for exploration? Because they're universal, and because we can all actually relate to them. So like I said to you, I think the acting of an archetype creates safety. It allows you, so essentially the reason why you have a good girl complex, or I have a good girl complex, is because we have learned that if we're anything else, we're not lovable.
Yeah.
If I'm too messy, if I talk too much, if I'm too emotional, my history shows me that people have turned their back on me, whether that's my parents telling me off for having a messy room, whether it's no one coming to console me when I cry because I cry too much, whether it's being told to shut up because you're too much of a chatterbox and you talk too much. So my psyche started to realize like, oh, don't be those things, because people don't love you then. So we then equate my lovability with being a good girl. When I please others, when I conform to everyone else's standards, then the love stays, then I can get the connection that I'm seeking. But if I go into these other states, then I lose love. And feeling unlovable is such a deep pain. We don't want to go there. So we build ourselves into this little box where we never have to feel it, which is the good girl box. So essentially when you say, okay, I want to go and experience the archetype of the whore, when you act that out, it's not compromising your good girl box. It's allowing you to say, oh, I'm stepping into that persona for a while. I'm trying it on. I'm feeling what it comes with. I'm seeing what might come out of that, but then I get to come back into my good girl box, and ultimately it's okay because I'm still a good girl. Because that was just an act. And that, like I said, I have no judgment for that. That's a safe way to explore when the shame is still so strong, that we think it's going to jeopardize the love that we can receive, of being the too much woman. Like, how many women feel like they're too much? Almost all of us.
Yeah.
It's in there.
Yeah.
Again, whether people want to address it, whether they want to admit it or not, the capacity to be a too much woman is in there for all of us. The fact that it even has a name, the too much woman, like it's such a universal experience. So I think once you start going into this archetype and start having a play and then explore and some experiences and getting some positive feedback, and you're having a safe experience where it's been okay, then you have a little bit more courage to go there a little bit more and a little bit more. Those positive external experiences are very, very powerful at us clearing shame. When I can bring to you the thing that I'm most embarrassed about, when I can find the vulnerability to share something so shameful with you and you just accept me and you love me and you witness me, then the shame dissolves. So that's the reclamation here, is that we have to go and face those things that feel shameful and recognize, oh fuck, the world didn't end. Oh fuck, no one turned their back on me. Actually, for some people will turn their back on you because they can't see that for themselves. They don't want to see it. It hits their shame triggers. They're not comfortable with it. And that's okay. We need to let those things fall away. We need to let any destruction that's going to happen. It's part of transformation. It's part of evolution. Like, the old has to die away for the new to be reborn. That's why it's such a courageous journey, because you've got to be willing to lose everything that you have in order to gain everything that's waiting for you. You have to drop the identity. You might have to drop relationships. You have to drop perhaps the friendships that you have or the way that you hold yourself in the world. But when I think about myself now and what I've undergone in the last couple of months of having extremely positive experiences of going into these areas where I feel shame, is I fucking walk through the world so differently, Sammy. There is just something, the way that I feel fearless and I just am who I am, and I'm not so worried now. I don't even think about, am I too much for people? I just don't think about it. Like, I almost want to be too much for people. Like, let that be the filter of who comes into my field and not. And if this is too much for you to see a woman love herself in this way or hold herself in this way or be this activated with sexual energy, people can see that too. People can see it and smell it. They know a well-fucked woman as well. That's going to make people either terrified or drawn into you. And I'm like, cool, let that be the filter. Because I don't want to put myself around people that want me to be small anymore. I don't want people to hold me back because they don't want to face their shame or their fear. Like, fuck it.
Yeah.
It will fall away, and the most awesome things will birth into your experience. The most awesome people will come in.
So you said to me recently, Sammy, like, your whore is your power, or like you said something so profound.
Oh, fuck, that was so good that morning.
Remember?
You left me this voicemail. And you said, oof, that's edgy. And you said, I think I need new outfits. And I was like, I got a voicemail and I was like, no, girl, it's no fucking outfit. It's no fucking archetype. I was like, you are a whore. It's not something you have to go and do. It's not something you have to go and experience. It's who you are. Like, it's where your power, I was like, it is your purpose. It is your power. Look in the fucking mirror and look in your eyes and say, I am a fucking whore. And I was like so charged myself. I felt, you know, like I knew I was transferring energy in that moment of like the reclamation that I've done and what it would mean for you to just like, fuck. And then that stuff drops away because it's truth. It's just truth.
Yeah.
And when you see truth, when you acknowledge these parts of yourself, there's no fucking turning back.
Yes. So on that, and on like how you mentioned for you don't even call it a sacred whore. It's just a whore. And that's probably confronting for maybe people to hear, but there's like this portal that opens up when you claim that, like, taking our experience and our willingness to go in this portal. If someone's like, fuck, like, holy shit, that's like, what, how do we start to go, why would I want to feel like a whore? Why would I want to like reclaim this? Like, why, like, what's that relationship? And why would somebody want to do this?
So last night, my lover said to me, you will never be satisfied with having your sexual health. Actually, he called it my sexual health, which I thought was really interesting because this is mental health as well. Like, our sexual health, our largest sex organ is our brain. I thought that was so fucking brilliant. He's like, you will not be able to experience sexuality without some element of aggression or violence in order for you to be sexually healthy. And violence was a big trigger word for me up until recently. I was like, I cannot combine violence and sexuality because of my abusive past. And now I'm actually I see it now. I see it for what it is, clear of my conditioning, clear of my trauma. I know what he means when he's talking about that violent sexuality. And I said, is that true for all women? And he's like, yep. He's like, how it's expressed is different. He's like, but I guarantee you 100% of women, if you ask them, do you want to be ravished? Do you want to be taken? They're all craving it. They're all begging to be taken. They're like, just fuck me well. Like, just fucking fuck me well. So how that expresses for each of us is very different. One woman might like her hair pulled and that's it. But there's that element of like, I'm being taken, that primitive primal thing. And for someone else, it can be like being, you know, I don't like to use these words, but being hit or being like beaten. I don't like to use these words because we have such an association of these being abusive. But what I'm talking about here is consensual. And when everything is consensual, it's not abusive. It becomes abusive when someone doesn't want that inflicted upon them. But like, if we're craving to be taken, if every woman on the planet wants to be taken somehow, like we're just like begging for someone to fuck us well.
Yeah.
So I can't even remember your original question now.
Either, but I'm thinking about like how interesting this is to want that, you know, like that primal thing that's within us somehow, that just like kicks in and we want that, yet we're also fucking quiet about it.
Yes.
You know, like how often, how I can just imagine how many people are in relationships, because I fucking have been in one before, where I'm like wanting that and I don't speak up about it and I don't say anything. I don't even let on that that's something that I want.
Sammy, this is part of reclaiming our voice. This is the big work for me too, which is funny because you and I speak for a living. We use our voice and our communication for a living. You and I could probably be put in a category of excellent communicators when it comes to every other area of our life.
And then
when it comes to sexuality, when it comes to our needs, mute. Can't even get the words are in here. They're trapped in my throat. They're trapped in my brain. My mouth can't move. There's no force, velocity behind them that lets those words come out of my mouth. That's shame. 100% that is shame. It's the fear of, what if I ask for that and I get rejected? What if they take it personally and they get hurt by what I want? That's extremely common in relationships. That if you ask for what you want, the partner is like, am I not good enough? Don't you like me as I am? Like, we put so much of our worth on our sexuality and our sexual performance that we think, if I'm not pleasing that woman, I'm failing. But actually, it's not about you failing. It's about me wanting something different, and you can want something different from me. Like, it's, of course, we all got different preferences in everything.
And it evolves.
We don't have to take it personally. Yes, exactly. So I think we don't speak up about it because of that fear and shame. And it's a freaking uncomfortable, like, it's just the biggest work I have to do, Sammy. And there's so much that I can't say out loud. There's things that I want in my mind. There's things that I'll ask for in text message, but to verbalize, to actually say it, oh fuck, so many triggers, so many tears. And that's where I'm being developed at the moment. He keeps saying to me, say it, fucking say it. And at the moment, he's just allowing me to repeat what he says. He's like, we're taking it slowly. Don't worry, it will come. He's not shaming me for the fact that that's where I am. He's making a positive environment, and he's giving me the language to use so that I can form those neural pathways. And so I can get used to saying those things. And so it, at this point, feels unthreatening. It's like stepping into the archetype. Well, if I'm just repeating what you're saying, I'm still safe. I'm not feeling so much shame. But when that becomes more comfortable, you start to integrate. And then I can say, fuck, this is what I want. Fuck me like this. Do this to me. Like, this is my fantasy.
And it's all so fucking connected. Like, I even at this point in time, I'm working with a vocal coach because I know that my fucking pleasure is trapped in my throat. And it's like, and to get to the level of being able to actually communicate all the desires and everything out, right, with a lover, it's like starts with me being able to express my anger through my voice and not hold it in. Or it starts with like being able to have an out loud orgasm. You know what I mean? It's like, utilize the fucking voice. It opens up your yoni, opens up every center of energetic pleasure. And yet we're fucking stopped there. Like, it's pushing me to my edges to just like share like grief that's coming out of my fucking mouth.
Yes, I completely agree. I've got two things I want to share there. One, that the acupuncturist said, I've been getting acupuncture because my periods are extremely heavy. And yes, I told her, I was like, man, I'm still on that massive bender. I'm still having 20 to 30 orgasms daily or twice daily. Like sometimes I'll have a session of 20 orgasms in the morning and then again at night.
Session.
I know that orgasms are life-giving and I still feel depleted, and I'm working that out. I know that I lose sleep sometimes when I'm up till 2 a.m. doing these things, but she said, well, you've got this propensity to lose energy downwards, and everything we're doing in acupuncture is trying to retain and build your chi upwards. She's like, do not push out with your orgasms. And I was like, oh, it's so true. Because you actually push out physically for more pleasure. You know, like there's something happening when you're constricting your pelvic floor in that way. So I know I need to draw my orgasms in and up. And I know, and like I work with energy for a living, so I know I can do it. And it might be a bit of reprogramming, like pat your head and rub your tummy at the same time, that I both want to push out physically and like feel that intensity between my legs and draw the energy upwards. You know, it's kind of like changing your breathing patterns in yoga. You've always exhaled then, and now you're going to inhale and you're like, what the fuck? Like riding a bike for the first time. It takes a bit, but then you find your groove. So I had, it was a couple of months ago now, an orgasm. Like I've orgasmed in my throat before to the point that it feels like these soft waves of energy. And I had an orgasm that exploded out of my mouth. And that to me was like the difference between singing with your throat and just la, 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 and then fucking singing from your diaphragm. Yeah. I was like, whoa, I did not know what a throat orgasm was. Like, no idea. But what my love said to me was like, push down and open your mouth as wide as you can and push your orgasm out of your mouth. And it was so confronting. I held myself back and I couldn't actually get to orgasm when I was there because my brain is going over time and I'm like so self-conscious of the noise that I'm making and the sounds. And then he used his dominance and he's like, do it. And I was like, fuck. And I fucking did it. And this orgasm like smacked together in the center of my body and then exploded in both directions. It exploded downwards through my legs and then upwards out of my mouth. And I fucking sobbed. Like my brain was actually okay, but the emotional and energetic release out of my throat from actually opening my mouth and moving the energy out of the channel in that direction, which it's meant to go for all of us, but it's like blocked pipes for all of us because they're so unused. Oh my God, the freaking, like honestly, even the sound of my cry was so different afterwards. I was like, I don't recognize this girl crying. And I cry a lot. I love crying. I could just feel this was like,
you're like,
oh, so much energy coming out. And he said to me, you just came like a goddess and you will never come like a broken woman again.
oh, fuck. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
That is the sexual repression that women have experienced for centuries.
Fuck.
And actually there's a book called Sex at Dawn, which is a very scientific and academic look at polyamory and the origins of humans. And in that book, it says that the reason that women are vocal during sex, unlike all other animals that mate in silence, human females are vocal during sex because it's meant to alert other males to the fact that there's a fertile female and to encourage more sex with a female to increase the chances of fertilization.
So that's the primal thing.
Yeah. Like we should be getting fucked by multiple men. Like this primitive part of us to ensure the species survival is that a fertile woman is something that's celebrated, that's alerted to other men, and that multiple people will inseminate her to increase the chances. So if you think about what religion and society is telling us, is that we're a slut, that we're a whore, that we're dirty, we're spoiled, we're ruined, that we should be monogamous. Can you imagine, like, of course, shut down the throat, shut down her making noise. Don't let her be vocal, or we know not to be vocal. Like there's something in that, in the way that society has conditioned us, and our natural state is that we're meant to make a lot of noise and actually alert people to the fact that we're having sex. Like my recent roommate was so okay with me making noise, and like, she was so okay with it, but still I still struggle with it.
Yeah.
You know, I want the freedom and the kind of physical environment that I can make as much noise as I can without intruding other people's space with that. Like it feels like a bit of a consent thing. You know, like
absolutely.
if you're not consenting to it, it can be really confronting to overhear someone, especially if they're having primal sex. Like, you know, the aggression in it.
We were having a conversation here and where I live with my housemates, like recently around like I have an issue or like barriers that come up from being in my vocal sessions or a pleasure practice or whatever, because I'm like, fuck, they're gonna hear, and then that's like brings up all this stuff. So then I still want to be quiet about it. And we're having this conversation around like this is something that I want to bring to the table, because if I talk about it, then maybe it's going to be more okay. And they all feel the same, you know, like even like Em, who's a singer, she's like, fuck, like I want to practice my singing, and there's a part of me that goes like, oh shit, but they're gonna hear, you know. So there's this whole thing around just whatever, like anything coming out of our throat and our voice, using our voice in a way where other people are going to hear, like brings up so much like stuff, not even in a sexual way.
Yes, exactly. Oh my God. I think that's the same for all of us singing. Like how few people feel good about singing. Again, because society has shamed us, and society, in our Western society, they've said only sing if you're good and only perform if you're the best. Whereas you go to Africa, everyone sings. Everyone in that community sings. My ex-partner and I had a charity in Africa. She still runs it. For 7 years, we ran that charity, and every time we went there, all they'd do is sing. You'd arrive and they'd be singing, and you'd leave and they'd be singing, and they want to honor you and say thank you for the donations by singing. There's not one thought in any of their mind that I'm no good at this. That person sings better than me. Like we've been robbed of that. We've been robbed of dance and movement and singing in the Western culture. Again, it's controlled. You have to be good at it. It's all praised on your performance. Everyone in Africa moves their body. Babies in prams, before they can even talk or walk, they're moving their bodies. They're dancing to music. Like it's this natural, primal thing to do to make sound. And then this etiquette, this societal conditioning, this domesticity that's been applied to us says, don't be like an animal. Don't be so unrestrained. Be controlled. Be good. Perfect your craft. Only do it if you're good at it. And we've been robbed of these very natural, expressive states that feel so good. How good does it feel to sing when no one can fucking hear you, and you love the music, or you're in a choir and you know that you've got some sort of protection that no one's going to hear you personally? It feels fucking amazing.
So fucking good. And also movement. Like the other night, the best thing was the other night, we're literally under the stars with a fire, listening to like tribal beats, and something took me back to like some sort of tribal primal animal came out of me, and I was just moving in whatever fucking way I wanted to come out, and I had like no inhibitions. I was just like going for it, and it felt so liberating and freeing. And there's this like, we were all doing it too, like
because the brain switches off. That's the state, like the whore as well. It is not a thought about process, it's a physical embodiment, which again brings me back to that thought that I have about Tantra. Like Tantra feels like control to me, or like my limited experience of what Tantra is. There's probably people listening, like debating what I'm saying in their head and telling me that I'm wrong for thinking these things. But from
if somebody is like, I want, like, let me know, because I want to chat. So it would be cool to like talk about this on the podcast too. Yeah,
I'm open to the education. But to me, it seems like you sit and you practice and you follow these steps, and you breathe in this way and you sit in this way and you do these things. But no one teaches you to be tribal like that, do they? No one teaches you to dance like that. It took over your body.
Yeah. However, on that, I have sat in an eye gazing breath work with a masculine essence, like not, we weren't intimate. I didn't know this dude. However, we were in a practice, and we did it for so long that I turned primal, like something within me took over, and it was no longer me breathing. It was him breathing me. And and it was almost like two became one in that moment. And I was able to bring on an orgasmic feeling without any kind of connection physically. So there is something like, depending on like obviously what you're doing and whatever, I think there is a level of, once, if you're willing to surrender enough to let go of that controlled state of like, I'm gonna just like do it to a point because I can like work, you know, and let go and fully surrender because you feel safe enough, then the control ceased to exist. And I was like, exit my body, or entered my body.
Yes. Thank you for calling me on that, because sometimes this is my own righteousness or arrogance here, that because it's not my path, I forget that it is the path for others. Like plant medicine is not my path. I don't need it. I sit and close my eyes in meditation. Amazing fucking crazy shit happens.
Right.
someone else picks up a guitar and crazy, amazing shit happens. And I have to fucking work at that skill so hard.
Yeah.
So having a guitar teacher teach me and go through that process until I get to the point that there's a freedom of expression there is a suitable path for me and not necessary for someone else. Like the one and only time that I did plant medicine, I did mushrooms, I ended up having sex the whole time. Like not physical sex. I was having sex with this jaguar snake woman who was basically activating all my sexual energy and telling me like, it's safe to be a manipulative person. You're afraid of, you've labeled manipulation as bad, but actually what she said to me is all creation is simply the manipulation of energy. So you're denying your power by trying to not be manipulative. But yeah, I was like, how funny that that's what happens on mushrooms. All that I do is access another part of myself that the whore came out and taught me to be a whore.
It does activate a lot of sexual energy.
Yeah, for other people who can't reach those states of consciousness on their own or with their meditation practice in the way I can, then it's a very necessary bridge that can allow people to open. So yeah, I do want to acknowledge Tantra as a necessary bridge for many people and a really powerful and I'm sure very, very, very healing thing for many, many, many people. But I guess I'm just super passionate about that primal state, that unconditioned, untrained, undomesticated part of ourselves that knows no fucking rules, that doesn't follow fucking plans, that doesn't try and get it right and do it perfectly and perform, but is actually so fucking raw and unfiltered. And there's fear in that, you know, there's like a twinge of like, what the fuck will I do? What will I allow done to me? What will I do to the other? But for me, that fear is such a huge part of my turn on. Like, I love that anticipation.
How do you reclaim your power in that? Like, how do you sit with that in a way that you have awareness around it unleashing your full power? Does that make sense?
No. Could you ask in a different way?
Yeah, like I'm just wondering how
specific to you. That might be an easy way to get the question out.
Okay, so I'm just wondering how me be fully, like, not stepping into an act, right? Like not stepping into a performance or not putting on an outfit or not, like just like being totally integrated with all of the different depths and darkness and parts and all of the ways, how that would unleash my power to impact the world, to impact my business, to impact whatever. Like how does that impact that?
That is that. You're exactly right. It's like, so that state can't be forced. It has a volition of its own. It is likely to be spontaneous the first time and unexpected and scary as fuck, and you've got to be willing. I think we often stop ourselves short of that. Or like we have one orgasm and we stop and we start to fade off. And what if someone pushes you at that point? And what if someone doesn't stop pleasuring you at that point? And then you're like, fuck, here's another orgasm. Fuck, here's another one. Fuck, here's another one. And it keeps rolling. But we just hold ourselves short. Like, what is it when those words start coming up in our throat and we hold ourselves back? So when that energy, when you finally stop holding yourself back and you push yourself to that edge that felt scary as fuck and it comes out of you, it's like that little box that you had packed yourself into dissolves. You've given yourself this experience, and experience is so much better than any kind of conceptual teaching or understanding.
Yes.
You've given yourself an experience and you can't go back. Sammy, you just can't go back. You're a changed woman at that point. You have overcome that part of yourself, and once you've reclaimed it, it's always there. So all power is power. You know, like if we think about it as like pipes in our body, these energy channels are like pipes, and we're trickling a little bit of water, and it's trickling through some of them. And some of them are blocked and some of them are unused. And what happens when you turn the tap on? It's going to burst through some of those pipes. It's going to cause a lot of pressure build up on the inside. It's going to feel like things are about to explode and a thing's going to break and destroy and blah, blah, blah. And it's going to burst open those pipes. And once those pipes are open, those pipes are open. Now, whenever the water's trickling through that thing, or it probably won't trickle ever again, when the water's running through those pipes are now available. So as you explode your sexual energy out of your body in through pleasure. How fucking awesome that it comes with orgasms. I talked about this in the last podcast too.
Yeah.
We get to do our personal growth in a way that's extremely pleasurable, that we're built for.
Yeah.
Then when you go into that business meeting, when you walk into that place, you've got energy running. This is what takes someone from that gray, I can tell she's not a well-fucked woman, to like, she's so vibrant. Her energy, her cells are buzzing differently. So it transfers everywhere. Like, yes, what you do in the bedroom, it requires the most amount of vulnerability, which is probably why it's so fucking transformational. Because you're naked, you're raw, you're exposed. So go and claim your power there, and it translates to everything.
Yes.
Does that answer the
What
question?
happens if we don't turn on the tap?
I think we can see that. You can see that in the woman who hasn't turned on the tap. You can see the lack of vitality and life force in her energy, and it's fine. I don't want to judge that.
Fine.
Oh.
Jaw restriction. Fine.
Who wants to just be fine?
Yeah. Yeah.
But
yeah.
I think as human organisms, we are very adaptable and we know how to tolerate. And both you and I have studied epigenetics. So we know that this plant that's thriving here in Bali, that's abundantly flowering, I could take it out and I could plant it in the snow. Yeah. And that plant is going to adapt. It's still going to live, but it's not going to thrive. It's not going to flower. It's going to be in a state of adaptation. And that's what I think happens to women. That's what happens to everyone, but specifically to sexual energy. You adapt and you think this is normal. I got a text message, which I'm going to share on my Instagram soon, going, babe, it's so awesome to see you like this. Do you remember those days when you told me that you had no libido at all and you're pretty sure you're meant to be a nun? I was like, fuck yeah, I do, girl. Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
I remember completely normalizing that experience.
Yeah.
Spiritualizing that experience. Thinking it's totally normal for me not to want sex ever. Like, I'm just spiritual. Like, how boring. Yes. I don't need that. So like, I had adapted to that state and normalized that state. I think freaking 79 to 90% of women on the planet have normalized that state.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because of the shame, because of the price it pays, because of the fear, because they're with a partner that doesn't want to go there or can't go there. And so, okay, or I don't want to upset my family, or I don't want to rock the boat. So, okay, I'll just adapt. And then it feels normal. And then you just carry on. So they don't turn on the tap. And it's okay. It's okay. But fuck, it's so much fucking better when you turn on the tap.
Yes. Okay. And so how do we turn on the tap? Because we don't want to go from like a drop to a drop to like a full on full pellet shower. Like, exactly. It's like,
that's all kind of growth, isn't it? We don't want to go into the gym after never having lifted and someone throws 100 kilos at us. We can't hold that. Yep. But if you go to the gym and you say, okay, I'm going to start with 5 kilo weights, and next week I'm going to try on 6 kilos, and then the next week I'm going to try on 7 kilos, and you build up your capacity to hold that energy. That's the same as, that's a law of nature.
Yeah.
So this is exactly the same. To be able to hold that level of energy in our body is a process that can be gradual. And yes, you can be exploded open sometimes and have a massive growth spurt, but you can also have a healing crisis, and you can also need some aftercare from that. So it is better to, this is why I don't also practice Kundalini energy. I just sound like I'm bloody poo-pooing on all spiritual practices right now. No Tantra, no Kundalini, but Kundalini is designed to force Kundalini energy through your body. But Kundalini will also happen naturally when you're ready. And we do see Kundalini healing crises. And one of my clients actually was involuntarily locked into a psychiatric hospital for 2 weeks after having a Kundalini rising experience at a sound meditation. And she became the element of water, and she was in the oneness state, and they were like, she's crazy. They honestly, against her will, put her in a psychiatric hospital and medicated her for 2 weeks. And she'd say to the nurses, but I'm God and you're God. Like, and they're like, oh, she's still crazy. And then all these other patients were like, we know, we see you. We see you. She could spontaneously play the piano. Spontaneously. Like, she's obviously activated all of this human potential, and people perceived it as crazy. And like, when she was telling me these stories, because she started coming to my meditation classes after that, and she's like, I need to tell you, like, I'm scared. And I'm like, I'm so sorry for you that I wasn't your teacher for that meditation that unlocked that, because you should have been cherished
Yeah.
and held in a safe container for that awakening and revered for what you're going through and create a safe environment. But she does recognize it was part of her purpose to go in there and see that a lot of people in the psychiatric hospital were having spiritual experiences.
Wow.
So who's to judge right or wrong? She had the experience that she was meant to have. But I feel the biggest thing to make this happen, Sam, is it's like everything. You just need to commit on the inside. You need to reach that point of conviction where you say, yes, fuck, I'm scared. Fuck, I have no idea what's going to come from this, but I cannot keep this inside me any longer. Like you fucking feel that energy like clawing at you from the inside, tapping the box. Like I've been locked away and I want out. Mm. And we can go, no, for 38 years of our life, that's fine. And then it will come bursting out of you. If you can find the courage and the willingness to acknowledge it and go there consciously, it will be far less destructive than if you keep it locked inside. And I would say I saw this a lot in the gay communities when I was younger, is that the people who denied their bisexuality or homosexuality for a longer period of time, got married, had kids, followed the traditional path, but were fighting against themselves. When it came out later in life, because nature will have its way, you cannot control this force. It's greater than us. It's pure life force, primal energy. I think you can control it for a certain period of time. It will burst out and cause a lot more destruction than it needs to. If you can have the courage to go there and willingly go there and say, okay, yes, now it's time, it's going to come out. There's likely to be some sort of destruction, but it's going to be a much easier path than if you try and deny it for too long. Mm. So I find like in all things in the universe, I had this knowing that something needs to change, but I'm ignoring it and I'm being strong and I'm just tolerating it and I'm trying not to like face it. And fuck, when you realize, and then God, once you see it, Sammy, you can't unsee it. Once you know you've been holding yourself back and once you know you've been keeping yourself small, the pain of that recognition means you can't keep doing it to yourself anymore. And you're like, fuck, I have to go there. Fuck, I have to face this. And when you say, okay, I'm going to do it, the whole universe comes in and smashes you with what you need to go on that journey. The teacher shows up. I show up in your world. I am screaming down WhatsApp, like, you are a horse, Sammy. Look in your eyes and do it. Like, you were ready for that.
Yeah.
You're ready for that. And spirit used me and my energy and my knowledge and my experiences to activate you. Mm. And that, like, the universe wants us to be our most powerful self. Like, that's why we're here, to experience the fullness of who we are. So all of the forces of the universe want to get you into your alignment, want you to experience your fullness and your power. So when you finally find the courage to stop boxing it and putting a lid on it, and you inwardly say, okay, yes, I'm going to take this journey, I guarantee something's going to happen in your world. Someone's going to show up, a conversation. You're going to be listening to this podcast. You're going to see an article online. Your girlfriend's going to tell you a story. You're going to hear about a rope jam and decide, oh, maybe I'll go try some shibari. Or you're going to meet someone at a coffee shop and they're like, oh, I'm kinky and like I do these things. And you're like, like, who knows what it looks like? Who fucking knows? You might have flashbacks of memories. You might have to process a whole lot of fucking trauma. Like, whatever happens, you just make that declaration inside yourself. You find that conviction and everything will take care of itself. Everything that you need will be provided in some miraculous, synchronistic, sexy, powerful, pleasurable way. And sometimes destructive, scary, difficult way also.
So how do we access you for support? Someone's listening to this and they're like, okay, this is the thing. Like, you're in the,
probably like, no, I don't want to, no.
Yeah, tell us.
It's time. So I'm just currently rebuilding my website, and Instagram is the easiest and best way to access me. And I'm doing stories almost every day. So you will hear my experiences. You'll like exposing yourself to the energy is the most important thing, which is, if we loop back to the very beginning of this call, why are these podcasts the most listened to podcasts? Because of the energy that's in it. So the more you expose yourself to that energy, you're like dipping yourself in and out of that pool, it's going to strengthen and open your capacity to feel that energy as well. So I suggest coming to find me on Instagram and laugh along with me and look how cute my cats are and all awesome, wonderful things that happen on my Instagram. And then also I'm just about to launch my first course specifically about activating this sexual energy in women, and it's called Worship. And I call it worship because yes, it's sacred, Like, yes, it's everything that I've just said about being raw and primal and aggressive and everything. It's just everything. So of course it's sacred. Everything is sacred. But this journey is for us. It's about us reclaiming this energy for no one else. We've given our bodies away. We've been exploited. We've been commodified. We've been suppressed for fucking centuries. This is not about getting love, getting attention, doing it for our husbands, doing it for other people. It's none of that. It's about us standing and living in our truth, and the consequences of that naturally. What?
Yep. All of it. And it's bringing up something in me that I'm like, like it actually brings up a visceral response in me around like filters at the moment, around these different things that people are using with a lack of intention or doing it for somebody else, right? Yes. Whereas I think as a woman, especially, we have this fucking gift and blessing to be able to dress up, to be able to wear these things, but to put on makeup, to be able to not put on makeup, to be able to do whatever the fuck we want for us, because it makes us, feel a certain way, or we want to do it for us. And yet there is also some deep conditioning and messages being sent around like, you actually need to slap a filter on because you look shit without makeup, or like all of these fucking things. You're going to feel more confident. You're going to feel more better if you inject your lips and you wear this outfit. Like, and I'm just like fucking done with it. I'm like, no, like we're missing this natural beauty and gift that we are as a woman, when we can just fucking be whatever we want to be for us and no one else. And I'm seeing it play out, and it's just like, like I'm just feeling heartbroken for so many beautiful young women who are growing up and missing this. And there's a difference.
And the men.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm not.
They're being conditioned too. They're of course not. But I feel sorry for the men that have been conditioned into thinking, I am attracted to that woman that is so far from her raw self. That's what's attractive. She's so manipulated. She's so painted. She's so modified. There's sexiness. Like, it's so far from our natural state. But this is like, yes, we claim it for ourselves. We do this journey for ourselves. And yes, some men won't find it attractive because of their conditioning. But like you said, we activate them. Yeah. We demonstrate, we show the way. Yeah. And like, my lover often asks me to go out without underwear on. And my first thought is like, ooh, my boobs are saggy. Like, I'm 38 years old. These aren't perky little young girl tits anymore. And he fucking loves it. Yeah. And I'm like, oh.
But this is like,
here I am again thinking like, I must be perfect. I must be young. I must be pretty. I must be beautiful. He's like, I don't like you in makeup. Yeah. Thank you. Like, how fucking awesome to have those positive experiences, but we don't need that. We don't need someone else. It's beautiful when those opportunities arrive. I want to provide those opportunities for women. I think there is something about the feminine energy exploding out of us in that uncontained way that needs some sort of container being held. And lucky for me, I'm an extremely masculine woman that has this, I have a whole man inside me. So I know when I hold this container for women, I'm holding that masculine pole for them. Yes, I'm bringing my femininity. Yes, I'm leading them in a feminine way and doing all of that as well. But I can hold that space. I can be that person that pushes them. I can be that person that keeps them safe while they explode in multiple directions at once and don't know how. I can be the one that like cherishes them and savors them without their makeup in their raw state. That I can be the one that worships their body and tells them, yes, look at you. Yeah. You know, like I did for you, look in the mirror and fucking do that, Sammy. Like that was a very masculine part of me that drove that message to you that day. So that's what I want to do for these women. It's like, I'm going to hold that container for you. I'm going to use my own energy and you will activate. And actually, I had this vision. Fuck, Sammy, so many things have been coming back to me lately of, I used to use these fantasies to get off when I was masturbating, that as soon as I came, the light switched off. Like, done. Don't think about that. Don't go there again. Whoop. Like, I didn't even want to consciously believe that I was using those fantasies in order to get off. I don't remember why I just said that. I want to use my energy to activate these women in this container. Absolutely fucking no idea where that was going. That was a good story.
Now we know you have fantasies that, you know.
Yeah, as we all do. As we all do.
And now you don't switch off because someone was able to hold a space for you to be okay with maybe
that wanted to see
feeling
it.
them. I don't know.
That wants to see it. He wants to wants to empower that. But yeah, I want to provide that for others.
Absolutely. And I think it's so important, going back to like, I got a little bit worked up about it, but you know, about like, you know, it's okay to want to dress up and to want to, you know, do our makeup. I want to do all these things.
Of course.
So, like,
yeah, I love it. I love a good filter. You'll see my Instagram stories.
Yeah.
I love it.
And I love a good filter, and I'm also totally okay with not having a filter. Yet there's so much fear in people that maybe aren't okay with that, or aren't okay with looking in the mirror and wearing no makeup, or like, you know, not leaving the house without makeup on, or whatever it is. And that's okay. But there is like people here like yourself, like myself, that are here to like help people remember that they are enough just the way they are, and that this is a process of being okay with your coming back to your natural self. And I just,
you're exactly
really
right
about
remembering. We're not going out and finding anything. We're not changing ourselves to achieve something. We're remembering. We're deconditioning. We're dropping all of the shit that tells us we're something else, because our inherent state deserves worship. Like, we just are worthy.
Yeah.
We just are powerful. We just are sexual.
Yep.
But, oh, fuck, Sammy, it's everything. It's everything. It's nature. It's the laws of the universe. Like, this isn't some fucking concept that I'm teaching, that I've read a book and fucking am reciting to people. Like, so much of the shit in the industries that you and I work in, so much of it is by people who are not activated or embodying that truth. They're just spitting out the words, the little buzzwords, the catchphrases, the concepts that we hear so much in the coaching and healing industry. I don't have to fucking talk, and people are getting activated around me. People will feel love around me. Like, people will feel this fucking podcast. Yeah, we used words and that's awesome, but fucking mute it and sit there and like feel it. They're going to feel the activation, the energetic activation. And that's what really fucking matters, is like the truth, and the truth will prevail. And you can question it and you can doubt it and you can try to resist it. Whatever the truth is, the truth will prevail.
Oh, yeah. Fuck.
Yeah, it's time, Sammy. It's time. It's time.
What is a parting, I don't know, energy you want to offer?
Are a fucking whore.
I was going to say around worship.
Okay, well, you are a fucking whore that deserves worship. You are so perfect, Sammy. Everyone that is listening is fucking perfect and lovable and powerful and sexual and desirable and gifted. Fuck. How can we not walk around in worship in the presence of that? How can we not? When my lover said, look in the fucking mirror and worship yourself, not with your eyes, but with mine. See me worshiping you through your own eyes. And I was looking at another fucking woman in the mirror. Wow. I was seeing myself in a way I personally had never seen myself. Like, it was like, this is body dysmorphia, isn't it? That when I look in the mirror, I see a certain image of myself that's not reality. I think that I'm fat. I'm thinking that I'm this. I think that I'm too old. I think that my boobs are saggy. And when I got down on my knees with my legs spread in front of the mirror and covered myself in oil and fucking worshiped myself, I saw what he saw. I saw myself in the truth of how powerful I was, and I was beautiful and I was sexy and my body was amazing. I sent you the video, I think.
Yeah.
I sent you a video of me doing that in the mirror.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Like, fuck, that's the power of worship.
Yeah.
And that's in our hands. Our hands. Yes, I've got a guide. God sent me a guide so I can guide others in the same way. But that's what's inside of us all. Oh God, this fly. It's trying to worship me. Get off me. Yeah. Sammy, what can we say? We can't even express it in words, can we? But you can fucking feel it right now. You can fucking feel it. I can fucking feel it. Our bodies are alive. Our hearts are bursting fucking open. I needed coffee this morning because I had hardly any energy. Fucking look at me now. I'm not going to sleep. I'm like, buzzing with aliveness.
Look at me now. Yeah. And that's what it does. Like it activates my womb. You know, like everything just feels alive from the inside.
The movement. Okay. Let's talk about this for a second. As if we're going to wrap up when we intend to wrap up.
Well, we did this last time. We're like, all right, thank you so much.
Don't stop at the first orgasm. Do not stop. Push through. You think you're all right, there's so much more. Goodness.
Yeah.
Orgasmic women. How many of the listeners masturbate in the same position with barely moving? whatever that position is, how much do you just go into that habit that you know how to get off? How many of you get up on your knees and masturbate that way? How many of you get into child's pose and masturbate that way? How many of you roll on your belly? How many of you stand up? Who is actually moving their body when they're masturbating? Probably hardly anyone. We don't talk about it. We don't share it. We don't talk about how many times we come. We don't, it's so shameful in and of itself.
Yeah.
So I want to challenge people, move your fucking body. Move your fucking body. Yeah. Start to activate your entire body. Grab yourself, touch yourself. How good does it feel for someone to scratch your back? All over. Start moving the energy through your entire fucking body. Rock your hips, move your belly. You were playing music as we got onto this, and I thought, fuck, Zoe's so good. She was embodying herself before getting into the podcast.
Yeah.
Do that. Put some fucking music on, but make it a sexual movement. Touch yourself in that way. Stimulate yourself. Move the energy through your body, and then touch yourself erotic. Well, it's all erotic touch, but then touch your genitals.
Yeah.
You will realize that your entire body is the fucking sex organ. I can't believe how much that's changed everything for me.
Yep.
Scratching my skin, moving my body.
Yep. Absolutely.
What the fuck? What was I doing lying in the same position for the first 38 years of my fucking life?
Yep.
Basically
and
masturbating the same way since I first started masturbating as a child. It had not really evolved from there. It was a tool to get satisfied. It was a tool to get sleep. It was a quickie essentially with myself all the time. And I've heard of other women doing and actually you call it a pleasure session, don't you?
Oh, not all of my pleasure practices are masturbation. But
okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Because I also want women to claim it. We're just fucking ourselves, get in the shower and fuck yourself. It's okay. Again, we don't have to segment it as this is a sacred thing that I have to light the candles and put the incense on and yes, of course, all of that and more.
Yes.
All of that and none of that. All of it's okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I want to challenge women to say, okay, this is not just about getting off. It's fucking cliched and people have been saying it for ages. I know I'm not the first person to say this, but fucking move your body.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh my God.
Changes your life.
Yeah. Get on your knees, get into a kneeling position with your knees spread and look at yourself in the fucking mirror and worship yourself. Touch yourself the way you want to fuck. I know.
Yep.
We don't even need to fucking say it, do we?
Yeah.
Just fucking do it. Get in the fucking mirror and worship that whore inside of you. Shit will change and you'll cry and reach out and tell me about it. And I'm here to support all of you that are listening, that are willing to find the courage to do that. You are not alone and you do not have to be scared. But if you know that you're ready and that fucking whore inside you is desperate to see the light of day and to express through you and to be free and to be liberated and to be powerful, then get in touch because I'm ready to take you. It's going to be wild. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be so fucking pleasurable.
Yeah.
It's going to be scary. There's going to be so many tears and I'm there for all of it. My lover said to me, get used to me desiring you in all of your forms. I know. When I turn my face away and he's like, don't turn your face away from me. And when I was tender and that brought out the primal animal in him, I was like, fuck, he still desires me even in my weakness and the thing I've been trying to hide or whatever the fuck it is. And I provide that. I am there to see all these women in their wholeness in all of their forms, to show them their lovability and to show them their power and to provide that container where you can bring all of yourself and be safe and be seen. And then, as you said, that naturally translates to every other part of your life.
Yeah.
We'll turn on the fucking tap.
Fuck. Well, I just want to honor you for turning on my tap and honor you for the way that you do bring such a safe space for you to bring anything to the table. Anything. I can't even think of something and be like, oh, shouldn't tell Erin that. It's I have something. I'm I need to fucking tell Erin, And you have this incredible energy that will support anything that's thrown your way because that's your dedication to doing your own work and holding your own capacity to be able to hold everybody else's. And you have such a deep heart and passion for really bringing people into their true fullness and power. And there's no there's no holding people to a certain thing because they don't want to like, there's just nothing, there's just no competition, there's no nothing, there's just this, you see through people's shit and all you see is the love and the power and the truth of who they are, and you have an ability to bring that to fucking life. So thank you, and I honor you for that. And anyone who isn't already connected to Erin, please do so, because you do get activated just by seeing her energy.
Sammy, I did not expect that from you just then, and I just want to say thank you so fucking much for seeing me as well, and thank you for saying that, and I very lovingly received that.
Fucking love you.
I fucking love you too, and we must do this way more often, and my podcast is coming, and I was thinking, fuck, I need to have a riff session with Sammy on the reg.
Yeah,
like we need to share our journeys and talk about what's going on, take our little WhatsApp and share it with the world.
Fuck.
I actually, what I want to do, Sammy, is like not send people newsletters anymore. I'm looking for technology, so if anyone knows of one, let me know, where I can send people fucking voice notes. So everyone on my newsletter list, rather than getting a boring, dry email, you get my voice. And babe, guess what's happening this week? Like, fuck, I've done this, or I'm launching this course, or I'm doing that. Like 1 minute of Erin talking in your ear, like that intimacy that I want to create with my audience. I want what you get from me, that they all get from me, that we feel what you and I feel. Like, I know we can create that, and like, fuck the traditional marketing methods and all that online shit. Like, I know that there's a way for me to just be straight into the ears and the hearts of everyone, and they all know that they're my friend. They're genuinely, I love these people, Sammy, even the ones that I don't know who they are and I don't know how they found me, but everyone that chooses to show up in my life, I feel such an immense love for. I fucking love my audience. I fucking love the people that put their hand up to work with me. I fucking love the ones that are sitting in the back row quietly pretending they're not listening, but like
I love them. I love them ones.
I love the ones that are coming forward and like screaming like yes, 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 and I'm bringing all my friends. Like, I love everyone. I genuinely I feel you all, and what a fucking honor it is to
such a fucking honor. So thank you to everyone who's listening as well, and please let us know what you think of this episode. But
let's reflect back for a moment on that video that we made in Vancouver about vulnerability. Look at us now. Fuck, we thought we knew. God, I've got to be careful laughing like that on podcasts, because I cut out the sound.
Really loud. Yeah,
like honestly, I've had microphones on for other recordings where my voice like I don't know, someone technical will know what I'm talking about, but like literally my laugh short circuits the sound.
But we love you, so thank you for joining our conversation, peeps, and like let us know what you took from this episode. Get moving.
Yeah, exactly. You wild paws. I love you.